Hello everybody, Toyah here. Welcome to Toyah Day. This next song we're going to play for you is a song that changed my life forever in a very surprising way. I started as a singer in punk rock in the late 70s, 77 kind of onwards, started to have album success from 78 onwards, but I never had that kind of national and international success that I was craving for. And my record label, Safari, asked me to record a song called It's a Mystery. When I first received this song off my friend Keith Hale of the band Blood Donor, it was a 12-minute vocal intro and about a 28-minute instrumental. Blood Donor were a fabulous kind of groundbreaking synthesizer band. And it was a great song, but it needed to become radio friendly. So Keith Hale and I set about doing what we call the ABC arrangement. So that's your verse, bridge, chorus, middle eight, chorus out. And it had to only be 4 minutes. So my contribution to that, as well as the arrangement, was I did the second verse. I wrote those lyrics. And then we released it, and I was incredibly worried about this song because up until this point, I'd been a really tough punk rocker, kind of pushing that glass ceiling up of women being accepted for all types of character as well as all types of shape, because I certainly was not your typical kind of female singer at the time who was tall and beautiful and outlandishly sexy and feminine. I was a tomboy. So I had my doubts about this song. I thought it might confuse my audience, but boy, it did exactly the opposite. It was an instant hit. It gave me my first appearance on Top of the Pops. And to be honest, I have never, ever looked back since that came out 40 years ago. 39 years ago. It's a long time. It's just been one of the best things that ever happened to me. I hope you enjoy this. It's for you. It's a mystery.
Somewhere in the distance, hidden from my view, suspended in the atmosphere, waiting to come through. Sometimes it's so far away, sometimes it's very near. A sound being carried by the wind, just loud enough to hear. I feel its power within me, bells ringing in my head. Often I have heard its cry, but forgotten what it said. It's a mystery, oh it's a mystery. I'm still searching for a clue. Oh, it's a mystery to me. A shot in the dark, the big question mark in history. Is it a mystery to you? It can treat you with a vengeance. It's gonna trip you in the dark. Sirens in the distance are gonna steer you from your path. It's gonna lift you to the heavens, put your troubles in the past, whisper the lecture and vanish in a blast. It's a mystery, oh it's a mystery. I'm still searching for a clue. Oh, it's a mystery to me. A shot in the dark, the big question mark in history. Is it a mystery to you? It's a mystery to me. A mystery to me. To me, to me, to me. It's a mystery, Oh, it's a mystery. I'm still searching for a clue. Oh, it's a mystery to me. A shot in the dark, the big question mark in history. Is it a mystery to you? It's a mystery. Oh, it's a mystery. I'm still searching for a clue. Oh, it's a mystery to me. A shot in the dark, the big question mark in history. Is it a mystery to you? Yeah. That was It's a Mystery. And I forgot to say at the very beginning, it's Humans Day! It's Humans Day! Look at this. Fabulous. Out today. Noise in your head. Oh, it's just the most beautiful packaging. And then we've got all the vinyl too. So if you've not seen this, this is each Humans album. That's in yellow vinyl. It's so delicious. I believe that's in red vinyl. That's Sugar Rush. And then we've got Strange Tales, which I think is in crimson vinyl. Then we've got the most amazing live performance at the Scala with Robert Fripp and the Humans, which is in purple vinyl. So it's Humans Day! Bill always wanted to call this the Humans' Greatest Hits, and we tried to call it that, but we ended up calling it Noise in Your Head because it is such an unusual project. It's very bass heavy and vocal led, and it's not what you'd call commercial, but it's definitely experimental and it's very engaging. So that is the Humans. Now, we've had quite a lot of questions about Derek Jarman this week. So what we've done is compiled the names together, and Jens Patterson, Susan Emmerich and David Jackson have all asked quite similar questions. Jens and Susan asked, what was it like to work on Jubilee, the movie? It was a fantastic experience because there were so many brilliant people involved. You had the wonderful cast, including Jordan and Jenny Ranacre and Adamant, who were just inspirational to be in the room with, yet alone to be making a movie with. Adam was very sweet, very considerate, very I found him quite contained to work with. He was always absorbing. He was a brilliant actor and was gigging at the same time with the Ants, so he was quite in demand. Jordan was fabulous to work with, and Jenny Ranacre, who is a filmmaker in her own right, was just a joy as an actress to be with. And Derek Jarman was, he had this ability of seeing the best in everyone, and he would put everyone in the right place. He wouldn't ever put you out of place within a scene. He wanted the best from everyone and everyone to be represented at their best. But at the same time, he had this unique quality of knowing that as individuals, we were all quite fluid and we could be different people on different days. And he just had this sense about him of making things right, making things come together. He fitted the jigsaw puzzles together, whether they were made for each other or not. He was a very, very special director. And then David Jackson says, I love The Tempest. What was it like working with Derek on The Tempest? And have I ever been to Dungeness? Dungeness is Derek's home in Kent, by the sea, by this huge power station, which he shared with the actress Tilda Swinton and also his partner Keith. I've never actually been there. By the time Derek moved there, I was, a huge rock star, touring non-stop, really, really busy. But The Tempest was gorgeous to work on. We filmed it mainly at Stoneleigh Abbey in the wintertime. It was it March? It was February, March into April. And I remember being snowed into the Abbey, and the Abbey was a burned out ruin. And there were a few occasions where we just couldn't get out of the Abbey because of the amount of snow that was falling. But I want to show you something. Derek let me have this at the end of filming. and it's my character Miranda's wedding ring that Ferdinand puts on my hand for the sequence at the end with Elizabeth Welsh, the singer. And to have this is one of my prized possessions, because Derek absolutely loved it. He was very much into kind of things. Physical things meant a lot to him. And I think that's because he was an artist, but there was also a collector in him, and everything had value. So he wanted this to be the wedding ring for Miranda in The Tempest, and I'm now the proud owner of it. And it makes so much sense, because we decided that our Miranda was going to be a feral child, someone who'd never come across gender. She vaguely understood what femininity was, but wasn't that terribly interested in it. She'd much rather be on the seafront, finding shells, finding driftwood, plaiting her hair, just being a wild child. So it made sense that when Ferdinand was shipwrecked on the island and they were proposed in marriage, that this should be the very natural form of what the wedding ring was. So very happy to have that. And The Tempest for me was probably one of the most important films in the whole of my career. It was a main character. It was Shakespeare, and I wasn't quite ready, I think, for Shakespeare. I now feel ready. Well, I now feel ready as a singer. And I don't know if I've ever said this before, but you do get many performers around the world who say you're never ready as a performer. It's a lifetime's journey. You never arrive. And so when I did this first Shakespeare, I felt very much like kind of the cygnet in the nest, just trying to learn how to fly. It was a great experience. And at the end of it, Derek gave me this wonderful complete works of William Shakespeare. And again, I absolutely treasure it. I love it so much. So thank you so much for that question. Mark Evans asks, hello Mark, I hope you're well. Would the younger Toyah of today have gone to LA to find her fame? It's a really good question, Mark, because LA to me, how can I explain this? How can I explain this? There's certain things about LA that you need to fit the mould for. One is you need to be tall. The other is that you need to have certain physical proportions, which I certainly do not have. I'm just so right as an English actress, and possibly right as an English character actress, because I am small and I'm muscular, but I'm not petite. I have a very big persona on camera. So would I go to LA to find fame? I just don't want to be negative about this, because I will work anywhere if there is work offered to me. I never ever say no. I just know I do not fit that mould. And at the same time, I also know that my work opportunities could possibly be greater in LA, but they wouldn't be what I desire to do. I was making a film 10 years ago called The Power of Three with a wonderful actress who lived in LA for quite a while. And she just said she was working constantly with terrible actors. And unless you're in the top tier, you do tend to work with a certain type that I've always managed to avoid. I've avoided the very vain actors. I've avoided very vain stars. I've worked with people that have virtually had no vanity, and that has been such a blessing. I don't think I do vanity. I deliberately do humble, because I realise how blessed I've been, and I realise how lucky I've been, and I've met the most incredible people in my life, and none of them have flashed the cash. None of them have been cripplingly vain to the point where you can't connect to them. They've all been hugely creative. Now, I know the other side of the camera, people are like that. The real creatives sometimes on movies are the directors, like J.J. Abrams, his team, the casting people like Nina Gold, these wonderful, wonderful people that hold productions together, that have the vision. I would do anything to work with that league of people. If it means LA, if it means I don't know, a desert in Morocco. I mean, I would go there, I would do the work, but I don't think I'm part of that fame system. It's a really good question. It's made me think quite hard. 40 years ago, I think I'd have done it, but I'd have been blind to what was expected of me. And I'd have been, I think, too naive for that kind of job. But Mark, thank you so much for that question, because it's, at the age of 62, it's allowed me to think about something that has drifted away from my thoughts. So that's a good one. Claire Prestige asks, have I ever been to or played Glastonbury? I have never been to Glastonbury, never. But I did play it about... Now, this is, see, the last 10 years is like that. It's like 6 months long, and I have to get this right. I think I played it about 4 or 5 years ago, and wonderful Colin Hines was with us. Simon Darlow organised it. It was a secret gig in a tent. The organisers were terrified it would get out that I was playing, because they could only fit 250 people in this tent for this secret gig in front of quite a lot of political dignitaries. So I was terrified, because I had a gig the night before, an acoustic gig, and then we travelled down from the north to Glastonbury. We were put in a special house where we could overlook the whole site. And I get very affected by people's energy, and I have never experienced anything like this. I could not get my feet on the ground. I was levitating. I really found the experience so extraordinary. I kept thinking, am I going to be able to sing? Am I going to be able to just stand up without feeling I've got this huge force of energy pushing at me? And I can remember Simon Darlow, Chris Wong, Colin Hines, I think John Humphreys. We were in this house, and we had a rehearsal for what we were going to do, and I had to do it lying on the sofa. I just couldn't stand up. It was like I'd had about a ton of coffee. So, and I was just so relieved I wasn't on one of the main stages, because I don't know what would have happened to me. Eventually, a couple of hours later, I started to calm down. My heart calmed down. I felt more in place. And we were taken to the tent, and it was this particular Glastonbury where the rain was so bad. The whole of the site was just a mud plain. So we didn't have to walk anywhere. We were driven. And it was a very, very interesting experience, just sliding in the mud in this kind of Jeep. And we arrived at the tent, and I was still very wound up by it all. We did the gig. It was breathtaking. But all the time, we had the organisers saying, please don't tell anyone you're here. Don't tell anyone we're here. You know, there's queues trying to find you. And I would love, actually, to go back and play officially in one of the tents. It would be fantastic, and I'd know what to expect. But I learned a lesson there, because I'm usually on stage at festivals, and it's incredibly empowering. The energy you get, it takes you out of this humble experience of this body. It is actually kind of the next plane. And I've experienced it at most festivals I've played, but wow, Glastonbury was a step further. And I hope I've made it clear what I mean by that. It is like being lifted off your feet and carried. Wonderful, wonderful feeling. I don't think I could ever go there and be in the audience, though, because of that, because I'm just too sensitive to that kind of energy. But it's a fantastic question, and I hope in my lifetime I do get to play there officially. That would be lovely. Wow. And I adore Michael Eavis. I think he's a really great guy. I've done press with him in the past, and he's just so real. He's fabulous. So, Janet Ramsden, you say you're a lifetime follower. Thank you so much. I myself am a paranormal investigator. Oh, this is apt after what I've just said. And was wondering, do you still live in a haunted house with a spirit in the attic? Wow, Janet, this house is so haunted. Literally an hour ago, I was in the kitchen with my darling husband, Robert, discussing what we're going to be filming for Sunday. And this incredibly bad smell of mud wet mud came into the room. And I said, Robert, what is that? And he couldn't smell it. And we managed to isolate it to one place in the room. Now, in this house, this happens a lot. It's either cigarette smoke, it's either Chanel number 5, and there's another smell, it's a herb, it's like basil or something. Now, we know that the cigarettes, the Chanel and the basil belongs to 2 sisters called the Spires sisters, who ran this house as a willow tea room. God, a long time ago. I'm 62. I first came here when it was a tea room when I was 3 years old. So they walk around the house, they open the bedroom door, and they bring with them these smells. They're not scary. Nothing in this house is scary at all, and I have lived in really scary houses. When I first met Robert, we lived in a place called Witchhampton in Bournemouth, where the devil was in that house, and we had to move. We just had to move, and workmen wouldn't go in there. Workmen wouldn't be there alone. One workman got locked in the bathroom for most of the day. So, you know, we've had a lot of experiences like that. But this house is very haunted, but it's utterly beautiful. And I like to think, because there's the potential here for the veil to be thin and for spirits to come through, that Bill Reeflin, beautiful Bill, our best friend, is with us, and my parents can visit as well. So I'm very into that, and thank you for that question. That's brilliant. Liam Rudden, you've sent a question in, and I want to say to you, Liam, thank you, thank you, thank you. You have been so positive to us as a reviewer and a journalist, and I'm so grateful. You have kind of turned the tide for me, because there's always been a trend in the last 30 years to kind of kick Toyah. Now there's a name for a website, let's kick Toyah. And you've turned the tide by writing honest, really lovely reviews about our live work and about our albums. So Liam, thank you so much. Now, your question has really surprised me, because you've asked something I've never actually thought about. In the Fairground from 4 More from Toyah always paints a vivid image in my head of a dystopian seaside town begging to be loved as it once was. So I went back and I listened to that about half an hour ago, and I thought, wow, this track is really nice. And the big thing, Liam, is I could probably sing it a lot better now than I did back then. Back then, we were on tour. We had to deliver for Christmas. It was 1981. It was released in December 81. And it was made pretty much in between live shows. And I think that I could develop that now much better for the acoustic show. So you asked what the lyric is about. Well, you're exactly right. It is dystopian, but it's actually dystopian in the past. I wrote it in the autumn of 81, the lyric, along with Joel Bogan and the team. And it was very much about decay setting in, as it was back then. And there was this sense of economic loss and everything. Even all that time ago, we were facing economic problems with seaside towns. And basically, we needed regeneration, and we needed buildings to be preserved. So I think it's one of those songs that fits the past as dystopia as well as the present and the future, because I think there'll always be a certain element of that. But I do hope that one day that we get our beautiful seaside towns kind of all scrubbed up and clean, and we have the cleanest seas on the planet and the cleanest beaches, etc., etc. You know, that potential is in all of us to make that happen. But it's a good song, and thank you for saying that it's one of your all-time classics. I think that's very generous of you, and I have to agree. You say that you love the barrel organ at the end. It's very haunting. Yeah, well, I've always found barrel organs really, really slightly creepy. So we thought we'd just bring that in as, you know, this idea that clowns are funny and when they're not, and barrel organs are fun when they're really a little bit sad, like the sun going down on a Sunday night and you know it's Monday the next day. So Liam, thank you so much, and God bless you. You are in our hearts with gratitude. So Paul Holmes, The Toyah live band are a force to be reckoned with. I agree. And a big thank you to the Toyah band. I just don't know what I could do without all of them, because we've kind of grown together as a family and we've created this sound. Would we ever consider making a studio record with Chris Wong, Andy Doble, Mike Nichols and John Humphrey? It's a possibility. And the reason I'm not jumping in and going, yeah, is that my income has completely stopped and I will have no income for at least 12 months, possibly longer until a vaccine is created. That's the same for all live artists. And it means when we do things, we have to make them work without any form of financial support. And that's not a moan, because I'm a saver. I'm touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. I'm going to be okay for a bit. But a studio album costs at least 30k, and you want to do it properly. So I'm writing at the moment, and I'm writing a lot. 4 songs appeared last week, and they're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. I really want to involve the boys. I have to think about how this can work. They live 250 miles away, which is another big problem. But it will happen at some point. And the virus at the moment is the main problem, because it's just halted the whole economy. But it certainly hasn't halted creativity. And I am intending by hopefully January, February, of having a new solo album come out. But there's a lot going on, as you know. There's a huge amount going on this year, and it is growing and growing and growing, and there's some nice announcements about to come out, and that's not just to do with record releases. Something's just gone up a step for me, and I feel very, very lucky. So thank you for that question. Now, all of you, thank you so much. This is out of lockdown day to a certain degree. Please wash your hands, keep away from people who sneeze and cough and don't cover their mouth. We love you so much. We will see you next week, and thank you. Get those questions rolling in. It's really good to do this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Please keep your questions coming in. They are wonderful. Now, before we go, we want to play you another song, and this is off In the Court of the Crimson Queen. It's one of my favourite songs live. It's Telepathic Lover. I just love the groove, and when we're on stage and we're just all grooving away, this is the Toyah band at their best. It's absolutely fabulous. So enjoy. Off the Crimson Queen, this is Telepathic Lover. Yay! Lots of love. Have a great semi-out of lockdown weekend. Love you. And it's called Telepathic Lover. Be my lover. Come on, baby, practice what you preach. I want you, I need you. You're never out of reach. A million miles dividing you and me. I miss you, breathe you. It's complicity, material.